What's up, everybody? This is Get Scene Unscripted, and I'm your host, Jesse Malinowski, and we bring you different guests and lessons to help you on your actor journey. So we will do the same for you today. So get ready for an awesome episode. We are going to talk about the industry. We're going to talk about, we're actually going to sneak in the summit as well from a couple weeks ago, and family, and talking about bi-coastal representation and working across the country. So we're going to hit a bunch of stuff today. So get ready. We got an awesome actress in the house, Miss Amor Owens. What's up, Amor?
Hey, Jesse. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So good to have you. We have known you for so long.
Oh, my goodness.
So long. It's been so great to always. How long have you been in Atlanta? Like, I mean, I feel like since I've been here, I feel like you have been here. How long have you been here?
Yeah. So, I moved to Atlanta in 1995.
Dang, you definitely here before me. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, in my former life, I was a school teacher. And
That makes sense. I didn't know that about you, but
Yeah.
that makes total sense.
I put in my 16 years at Gwinnett County Public School.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully, made a difference in a lot of children's lives and their families. And it wasn't until 2013 where I bet on myself. I think that's when I met you. Bungalow Productions
Yeah.
days.
Oh my gosh.
I'd like to bring that up in this
Yes.
podcast at some point.
Hold on, wait. Did you also I don't remember, but I always know that you taped with us at Get Seen, but
Yes.
you taped with us at the bungalow when we were like in the woods and you thought you would be killed
How
coming?
did you know I felt that way?
Because everybody did.
I remember, oh, wow. Yeah, in the very beginning, I didn't know how I found you.
Because we were like the only surface. We were the only taping surface.
You were.
Yeah.
And I drove up and I was thinking I was in the wrong place. And I thought, what did I just sign up for? And I get there and you greeted me in this gravel driveway and I went, oh, hi. I'm so glad you came out because I almost drove away.
I believe it.
Yeah, yeah.
I believe it.
You were so nice and so patient with me and helped me with my taping. And I've come a long way since.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you have, girl. Yeah, you have.
Mhm.
Man, that is funny. I wish that we somehow had a video
Yeah.
of like the driveway going through the woods, kind of,
Yeah.
and then you pull up to the little bungalow and you're
Yeah.
like, this can't be right.
No.
But it was.
It was special.
It was.
And I just remember going there and going into the parties and I was like, oh, this is community right here. We had way too much fun during those days.
Oh, man,
But
yeah.
when I see you, I think family. I
Aw,
really do. You're a
thank you,
dear friend.
Amor. Thank you. Well, before we jump into your awesome career and how you have been able to actually work here in the Southeast, but then also work in Los Angeles, even New York, like you've really been able to go beyond this market, which I think a lot of people have dreams of doing. Before we do that,
Okay.
a couple weeks ago was the summit, and that was the first time. And you were talking about how you were just really surprised by it.
Yeah.
And I'd love for you to kind of, if you don't mind, kind of elaborate on that, because it was great to have you. I mean, obviously, being one of our mentors, you were there on stage with everyone, but then you also were like, I'm going to sneak into some sessions.
Yeah.
And so what was your experience because you were like downstairs, I have some stuff I want to tell you, but I'm going to wait for the podcast. So
Yes.
I'm ready for it now.
Okay. First of all, I just want to thank you and Candace for creating Get Seen, and I've seen it grow and flourish. You've helped so many people in this industry in the Southeast, and people are flocking in from other states. And I met so many people there at the summit, and just to encapsulate my experience, my visceral experience of the summit. And this is where I was trying to tell you downstairs. I was pleasantly surprised because what I felt was a love for community. And I felt it there with all the different people from all over the country coming in, wanting to know about the industry here, learning from, the industry pros, the gatekeepers, agents, and even other actors who are in different seasons in their journey share their testimony, I was so inspired. I really was, and I'm so grateful that you created this space for that. Um, I was just gonna come for on Friday to do the mentor panel and share about my process. But then I thought, well, I'm gonna sneak into some of the workshops and some of the talks and maybe learn something, right? I learned a lot. I learned a lot, and I just remember sitting there listening to the first one that I saw. It was between you and George.
Yeah.
You two were cracking me up. It was so funny. Um,
Me and George usually have some sort of interesting
uh,
show you don't normally see.
it was quite entertaining. But you two were talking about like I forgot what the questions were, but anyway, I was just leaning in, and one thing I got out of that was George was just talking about when he makes a decision about casting someone, he's looking for your essence. And I was thinking, yeah, right. So I held on to that, um, the word essence, and then I heard Mark Fincannon and Charlene talk, and what I got from Mark, which was a very moving talk, was that figure out your identity. Like who you are, and to me, like essence and being who you are and showing up as who you think you are. What is your identity? And he talked a lot about faith, which is a huge thing in my life. And then I heard Chase talk about how to navigate the Zoom room, and what he said was they're looking for who you are. Again, it was like the thread. It was a similar thread, and what I got from all of that is this just idea of just being self aware, and what you bring truly is enough. And so my as an actor in my journey now for doing this professionally since 2013 when I decided to bet on myself, um, was that journey of being human. Like I want to be a good human, and what does that mean? Last, I try to unpack that. Like, what does that mean? And I think about, as far as my faith, my value system, my priorities, and that's something I wanted to flesh out in this podcast. Because if we're really going to get down to the nitty gritty of why I'm still in the industry doing what I'm doing, because it's the long game, it's a long game of life, and as an artist in this industry, um, all of those basic ingredients of faith and values and priority is what's really driving me to keep going in my life as an artist and as an actress. So yeah, I felt like the summit for me was that, and what I really appreciated so much were meeting other humans that were there who were so excited to pursue their dreams, to pursue their passion. And that was the universal experience, is that we were all there in different, parts of our journey. Um, some of us are further along, but some of us are just starting out. Some of us are pivoting from another career to this career, but we were all there for the same reason.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was just beautiful.
oh, I love you. I mean, I think you shared that so beautifully, and I think, I mean, there's so many things. I hope I don't forget anything while I'm talking here. But the first thing was, yes, I felt like there was such an incredible, just energy
Mm-hmm.
there, this year. Not that there's not incredible energy in other years, but it did feel a little bit different this year. And you talked about it. I felt it. Other people have mentioned it to me. So I love that you brought it up. And I love like just kind of your experience and how, someone, 50 plus credits, recurring roles all over the place. Like, you could easily show up being like, I know this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you do know a lot and you're very educated, you're very experienced, but there were still things to learn for you. And it
Mm-hmm.
reminds me,
For sure.
I had one of my mentees, shout out to Ryan Osborne, who's in the mentorship, but I had asked him, "Hey, what was your biggest takeaway from the event?" And he's like, "It's interesting because I I remember the first time I went to the event, I was just like overwhelmed with information. It was just so
Mhm.
much stuff from me needing to learn who the agents are and who the major players are and how to get an agent and all these different things." He's like, "And now I'm like so much further along. I kind of showed up thinking I knew everything." He's like, "But instead, I like was able to catch so much nuance
Mhm.
this time around that I never got last time."
Yeah.
He's like, "So it was different." And I was like, "This is a great lesson that it doesn't matter where you're at in your career,
Mhm.
whether you've been to the summit or not. It is jam-packed with so much information, so much expertise, so much wisdom, so many people involved.
Mhm.
Like it's impossible for you not to get stuff."
Oh, yeah. And you know what I really like too? I was reading your flyer on like your mission statement.
Yeah.
You said something about like the changing business. As the business changes, we need to shift with it. So true.
Mm.
So much has changed since I started. I've changed. I've evolved as a human being. So I show up differently. And then the platforms have changed. So, staying relevant and being relevant and staying informed with what is relevant now is so important, especially if you want to keep going. I'm not quitting. It's like, what was it? Harrison Ford was saying it's so, uh, this industry is tough to get into, but it's also tough to get out of.
Yeah.
I'm still in it. Even if I want to quit, I can. I love it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I just love it, and I just try to pivot wherever I need to pivot. And I feel like, again, the summit was providing that. Listening to the agents and the casting directors, and even you and other people who are working their experiences on set, or how to prepare for the auditions, and how to prepare for the Zoom callbacks or the Zoom auditions, and being in person. All of that has changed. The platforms have changed. So staying current is vital for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so we'll get off the summit. If you were there, you know how great it was. If you weren't there, shame, shame. No, I'm just kidding. But be ready to come to the next one.
Yes.
Um, so uh, I don't think I knew that you essentially started in 2013, that you're like, I've been a teacher. And so like now I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to dive into it because it's not, I assume it's something you always wanted to do and you were scared. And so you're like, I got to go do the normal like thing or
Yeah.
like, and so you just were like, now you said betting on yourself.
Yeah. So I think I had always was curious and wanted to be an actress. When I was 8 years old, somebody asked me what I wanted to be, and my sister and I were sitting next to each other, and they asked me first what I wanted to be, and somehow I said I want to be an actress. And my sister, who was 9, she goes, "I want to be a doctor." And then I went, "No, I want to be a doctor." So I think it's funny that I play a doctor on TV.
Yeah.
I act, as a medical specialist or a doctor a lot. And I look back at that, and I thought, what made me say that is because my mom was an actress. She was a Renaissance woman. She was a doctor, a concert pianist, an actress, an opera singer.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, and she was
Whoa.
4'11". She's my biggest inspiration. My
Oh,
first vocal teacher. Yeah. And I would watch her perform on stage and also on television. So I was nurtured in that environment. And so I'd always been curious and was interested in it, but I had stage fright when I was in middle school. Um and I would, try out for different things like cheerleading or band or whatever, just to get over it. And I would do like poetry readings and stuff, but I would be so nervous. And then in high school, I wanted to try out for the plays, but I never did. But I love theater, and I would watch all the plays. Like even in college, I would go see Shakespeare plays in the park. And my friends who were in the theater department would put on plays, and I would go to every single production. And I'd always wanted to be on that stage, but I was so inhibited. And um, and I remember Okay, I bet on myself back then, but I was so sh- I know people are not going to believe this, but I was shy. Like it was like I was extroverted, but I was shy. I was kind of like introvert, extrovert. And I signed up for this Meisner class. I didn't even know it was Meisner at the time, but it was an acting class across the street from my university. I went to Vanderbilt. And before it was sophomore year, before I could like claim a major, I thought, well, maybe I'll try out that acting class. Maybe I'd want a major in theater. I don't know. So I did, and I was I was so excited until the teacher took me aside and he said to me, "You know, I'm really worried about you because being Asian and being a woman, I don't know if there are going to be very many parts for you."
Mm.
Okay, that wasn't very encouraging. And I thought, I just paid you for this class, but I'm going to keep going. And I finished the class. And I remember walking out of that studio thinking, well, I guess I'll do something else that's creative. And I knew I loved art. So I majored in fine arts and philosophy, double majored. And my mom said, "What are you going to do with that?" She goes, "I'm worried. What are you going to do with that? Don't you want to go to medical school or law school?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, Mom. I can major in liberal arts and go to law school. I don't know about medical school, but I'll look into it." But I knew that I wanted to follow my heart, and that was to be a creative. Okay, so fast forward to your original question, like when did I really start acting? I think I'd always wanted to act, but I didn't really know how to do that. And it wasn't until 2010 when a friend of mine, Dana Connick, invited me to do costuming for White Stone Motion Pictures, and they were producing the movie Candy Shop. Beautiful. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. And I was part of their costume department, and I created costumes for them. And I remember stepping on set and feeling like I was home because I'd grown up in the production, in like TV production and theater, because my mom was performing, and watching all the different people in all the different departments collaborate and creating this beautiful movie, the buzz and the energy. It was like the film bug. I just got bitten by the film bug. And ever since then, I have been doing that, and I've been pursuing it. And it was a passion that I've just been immersed in, that I want to be a part of forever.
I love that. There's
Okay.
two things that I want to talk about. One, I want to talk about that Meisner teacher because I think there's such a great lesson in that for everyone is like you underestimate your influence.
Mm.
And he was trying to do right by you, right?
Mhm.
But like doesn't understand that like he's actually taking a dream.
Yeah.
And so like I just would encourage the listeners to think about that like every single one of us has influence. We
Mhm.
have power in our words. We have power in how we support
Mhm.
someone, and so again, he's thinking, "Oh, I'm helping this woman,"
Mhm.
and at the same time, kind of, cutting your legs out from underneath you and like taking away your hope and your dream in a
Mhm.
sense. Um, so that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, this is such a beautiful story of, I think, so many people, especially in the Southeast, at least. I don't know if this is as prevalent in Los Angeles and New York, but the amount of people that get into this a little bit later in life that wanted to, and because of kids or because
Mhm.
of family or because of another job or something, they don't. And then later they're like, well, maybe I should. And that, you've been able to be so successful. I mean, Charles Green is another one, right?
Mhm.
Another one of our mentors of just so much success later in life, like
Mhm.
not giving up on the dream and being okay that it was a little delayed. And I think
Yeah,
that's awesome and that's beautiful. And so, if you're listening right now and this is, something that, sounds familiar, it's like just begin to take action.
for sure. Yeah, and I hope that whatever I share here will hopefully inspire somebody to do that. And it's interesting how that dream found me again, right? And I feel like if that is your purpose and your path in life, and you'll find it again. And it found me again. And in such an interesting way, because I found myself behind the camera doing costuming. And while I was at Whitestone, they also had me be a producer. I was a UPM on some of the projects. They had a second unit. And I just wanted to learn as much as I could about filmmaking and film production. And it was during that time when I met other actors who encouraged me to look into being in front of the camera. And a friend of mine introduced me to my first acting teacher, Sandra Dorsey, who's no longer with us. Very special lady. She was the one that really got me to fall in love with acting. She introduced me to Stanislavski, to Lee Strasberg, the group theater, all that. And I read everything and just took it all in. And I've been training ever since. I haven't stopped training because it's like my gym. Like I have to keep doing this. I have to stay sharp because I love it. I love being in class. I love training all the time. But that's another thing, you got to be careful because you can nickel and dime yourself.
Yeah.
And but it wasn't until 2013 when I took a year off from teaching, and I had I sit down with my husband and I said, "Hey, I really want to pursue this. I'm just going to take a year off and see what happens during this year. I'm going to bet on myself. Are we going to be okay financially?" So, and this is something I want to talk about too, as far as including my family in this journey. You know, every time I make a decision, I make sure I have a conversation with my husband and my kids. You know, it's not just me pursuing this; it's the whole unit.
Yeah.
And so we talked about it, and we talked about, okay, are we going to be okay for a year if I didn't teach, right? On one salary, do we have enough in savings? We have to do Cobra. I mean, we were talking about like insurance and all that. It was like self-pay because I wasn't going to get the insurance from the county. And do you know what? During that year was when I auditioned for Jay Purvis. I'm still with Jay Purvis. I love Jay Purvis. I love Jamie and Joy. Okay. So that was the year I signed with them. And it was a very exciting year. And it was the year where I booked my first commercial. And my first, I believe, maybe it was like the end of 2014. I had booked my first network booking. I couldn't believe it, you know, and I was auditioning and became SAG eligible during, I think might have been 2014, 2015. And yeah, it's been a wild ride ever since. And I think at the end of my year off, I had a decision to make if I should go back into teaching or not. That was tough because that regular paycheck, I had to say goodbye to, you know, and it was very comfortable, and it was you know, consistent. And I said no to that. I just said, you know, I'm going to keep going, go big or go home.
What did your family say at that point? Were they like, "This is a great idea," or they were like, "We don't know about this, Mom"?
Well, my kids were too little. Like they, you know, they thought it was cool that I was trying to act. But my husband has been very supportive ever since, and I just want to thank him for his love and support during all these years. And he's just been a wonderful husband and a father, and supporting our family. And I'm blessed in that I do have that. And I know not everybody has that, so I'm very grateful. But anyway, where's I going with that? So I'm not gonna lie. After that year, I had to get used to it. You know, I had to, like, I was second guessing myself for an entire year because I was on this rhythm of life where I would, you know, do my lesson plans and I would go to work 9 to 5, or actually in this case, as a teacher, it never ends. You just have to tell yourself to stop working. But, you know, I had to restructure my life where I had to put structure in it to to keep the discipline going. You know, as an actor, for me, just putting in your reps, being in class, doing those scenes, reading plays, whatever you need to do to stay sharp. I had to build that in. You know, I had to build in that structure, and the money was not coming in consistently. Like I would get a monthly paycheck, and it wasn't until I was getting residuals I'm like, okay, this is kind of like a paycheck, you
The
know, like
mailbox
a
money.
mailbox money,
Mailbox
you know?
money.
So, but that was tough. Yeah, and I don't know. People have asked me, have you ever thought about quitting? I'm like, yeah, there's so many times, but I just keep getting back on the path. Like I keep going back to it.
What inspired you and got you working in other markets? Because I think so many other actors want to do that, and I hear like I hear people talk pros and cons on this. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, if you're not really like working a lot and nailed the market that you're in, don't worry about other markets. You know, you've obviously been working in the Southeast, and you were booking from essentially year one of really going after it full force.
Mm-hmm.
How were you able to begin to work outside of the market?
Great question. Okay, so I believe it was 2008. At the end of 2018, I went to New York City. My sister was living in New York. Okay, so I was visiting her, and they had
The
casting
doctor?
the yeah, she's actually a doctor. Yeah, she works for Doctors Without Borders now.
All right.
She does a little bit of missions and medical missions, but yeah. So I would go to New York because I live in New York City, and I went to some casting director workshops just to get feedback. You know, I just wanted to see if I was any good, like if I was delusional, like what, you know, just give me feedback.
Like,
'Cause you
maybe I'm
rarely
good
get
in Atlanta,
feedback.
but not good in New York.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. But, you know, I just wanted to get feedback from other industry pros. And so I did that. I really just did it for myself just to see where I am, you know, and what I needed to work on. And luckily got some good feedback. And I also, you know, I talked to my agents at the time about like I had a conversation with them about, you know, possibly me pursuing opportunities outside of the Southeast. And I think that's very important, you know, when you to have those conversations with your team about your plans, like as far as expanding your team, getting new representation in a different region. And so I made sure that I had that conversation first
With Jay
with
Purvis.
Jay
Yeah.
Purvis. And, you know, because I was looking at possibly getting another agent in New York or a manager, or whatnot. And I guess I wanted to get their blessing. I wanted to get permission, or I wanted to get their support. And so, and I did. And I said, you know, I'm going to go to New York to see what's there. And so when I met the casting directors there and I got some pretty good feedback, I went, okay, well, I'm going to see if I can get an agent. And I go back to Get Scene. I'm telling you, Jesse, I think you had some agents from New York during
Yeah,
that
yeah.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And I had submitted to, I think at the time was Avalon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Craig Holzberg
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
yeah, he was one of the agents in New York, and I had like sent out. It's funny because now I'm a mentor. I was sending out cover letters. I went to IMDb Pro and I was looking up. Yeah, like, okay, agents in New York, managers in New York, and I had submitted some cover letters. It's funny because I coach my mentees on how to do that now,
Right.
and and so I was able to get a meeting with one of them, and while I was there, you know, I had a meeting, and it went really well. And I signed at the time. I signed with Avalon, and this was pre-pandemic. And 2019, this is such a great story. I had signed with them, and I remember they had given me an audition for Law and Order SVU, and I was I was cleaning my house during that time. It was like Valentine's week, and my in-laws were coming, and they my agents called me up and they said, "Hey, can you be in New York tomorrow?" And I said, "What?" They said, "You have an audition." It was an in-person audition in New York. And I told them, I said, "I'd do whatever it takes for me to fly up there." You know, my sister was living there at the time. So I said, "I have a place to stay." So I have a local address, it was local hire kind of thing. And so that was in place. You know, I made sure, that's another thing. Like logistically, you have to make sure you have things in place.
Yes.
And I was blessed in that my sister was there at the time. And so I was able to say that, like, "Hey, I can be local hire, local address, and I can get there at a moment's notice." Southwest, you can get a plane ticket, and you can cancel 10 minutes before, and you can still get credit for it.
Oh,
Like,
dang.
yeah, I mean, logistically, you really have to do your homework and figure out how this is going to work out.
Exactly.
Okay.
I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, and I think that's important to know. It wasn't that easy,
Right.
and I also made sure I had enough money to be able to do this. You know, you have to invest in yourself, and you have to make sure logistically you have everything laid out to the best of your ability, so that when your agent calls you up and says, "Hey, you have an audition tomorrow, can you make it?" I said, "Yes, I can." And I said, I'm going to make this happen." I hang up, I bought a ticket, called my in-laws and said, "Hey, something came up, and I'm not going to be here, but Derek will be here." And they're like, "What happened?" I said, I gotta go to New York because I have an in-person audition." And they said, "Go, go, go." So family support, that was wonderful. Make sure you have that. So everything was laid out perfectly, right? So now I'm scrambling to pack up my things, flew to New York. I forgot my headshot and my resume. At the time, they were still taking like headshot
Right.
and
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
resumes. Um,
I still bring a headshot and resume to like an in-person audition. There's not many of them,
yeah.
but I'm always like, "Y'all want this artifact?" And then it gets a little laugh, and so usually they take it. They're like, "Okay, thanks."
Yes. I have a few ready to go.
Yeah.
So I'm laughing because I think back and I think, oh my goodness, I did so much to make that happen, and thinking about it is exhausting. But it was quite funny how it worked out because I remember getting on that plane, and I was so excited. It was like, this is my first big experience in New York City. I got to figure it out. Like, I have no idea where this is going to take place. It was in Chelsea Piers. So logistically, I had to figure out, okay, I'm going to stay at this hotel, and do I take the subway? Do I take the bus or Uber? I mean, how do I get there on time? Because it was like at 10:50 in the morning, and I didn't know traffic flow, or how long it would take for me to take the I think it was like the A train or the 4 train. I don't know. Anyway, at the time
You flew
could
into
go
JFK? If you flew in,
LaGuardia.
so then you would have taken the bus to the 7. That's what you would have done. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, I quickly learned how, like the whole subway system worked and the bus system. That was fun. So anyway, I get to the hotel. It was Row Hotel. I remember this. Midnight. Midnight.
Wow.
Okay. I'm exhausted right now, but I'm still like on adrenaline because I'm so pumped. I'm so excited. I get to my hotel room. It's at 12:30, and I'm so excited I can't sleep. But I make myself sleep because this is a big deal. My first audition in person in New York City, and I remember I'm thinking, oh no, I didn't bring my headshot and resume. I have to go stop at my agency's office, get it, run to the subway, get to Chelsea Piers, and hopefully not be sweating and freaked out. Get there in just enough time to calm myself down. And I get there, and I was sitting at Jonathan Strauss's office. I was seeing all these people lined up, waiting their turn, and it was my turn. I went in there, and I met Phil, and I remember I was so excited and nervous that I actually messed up the first take, but he was so gracious to me, and I looked straight down the barrel of the camera.
Oh
And
no.
he was like over here, and then the camera operator was over there. And I went, and at the end of it, I went, I'm sorry. Can we do that again? I must be really nervous and excited about this whole experience that I forgot that you're my reader. And he goes, yeah, of course. So we do it a few times. And at the time I was taking Meisner, and I remember the both the first two takes went really well. He goes, I got two really good takes. Let's do a third one just to kind of like blend my notes from the first and the second, see what you come up with. So I do it. And at the end of it, I went, oh, Phil, I felt that one. And he goes, oh, you like that? I'm like, yeah, I felt that. And he goes, great. Well, I got three really good takes. And I left, thanked everybody. I get back to my hotel room, and 4 hours later, 4 hours later, same day, my agent calls me up and he goes, so how'd it go? I said, it went really well. They were super nice. It was great. I had a great experience. And he said, well, apparently it went really well that they want to cast you. I went, what? I wanted to scream
Oh my
so badly.
gosh.
I was like, what? And they said, yeah. And not only that, but we found out that Lucy Liu's directing the episode.
Oh my gosh.
Ugh. I couldn't believe it. And that was my very first experience in New York City. And I got to set. I got to work 2 days with Lucy and the whole gang, like the whole cast. Everyone was we're still friends. And yeah, that was my very first experience in the New York City market. And then after that, I started auditioning for co-star and guest star roles. Very grateful for Avalon during that time, and Craig, and I would get really close, get in a veil check, get pinned, and I'd get released. Get really close, get pinned, get released. After several months of that, I started looking at my pocketbook. I'm thinking, oh no, I'm spending a lot of money. I'm nearing the end of like, I was getting really nervous about like my finances. I'm thinking, can I keep going? Can I keep going? And I remember it was October of 2019, and I just was thinking, I don't know if I can keep doing this. This is getting really expensive. And at that moment, I wanted to quit. And my daughter looks at me and she said, Mom, you can't quit. I said, yes, I can. I can quit anytime. She goes, what? She goes,
It's
Mom,
my decision.
yeah. She goes, you can quit. I said, I got everything. I've got so much to be grateful for. Roof over my head, my family. I said, if I quit now, it's fine. I'm going to be fine. And she goes, no, my family would not let me quit. And so, but I was already okay with that. I'm like, well, I can just, maybe it's not meant for me, right? And I'm sharing this story because it's gonna pivot. It's gonna go back to what I was saying. Like, whatever your purpose is in life, it's gonna find you, and you're gonna find it along the way. You're just stay the course, and so, and the people you surround yourself with who know you will hold you accountable and
Yeah.
remind you about that purpose and your dream,
That's good.
isn't it? And because it's true.
But I think
It's
also
true.
remember that like this is not something that's in the acting book. You
Mm-mm,
know what I mean?
mm-mm.
That this is like required and needed, and you have a better shot if you have it, you know? So this is not like practice your on camera and your scene study work. It's like have that community and that support system. Cannot agree more, but I think sometimes it can be overlooked and forgotten that we should be putting energy and effort into
Mm-hmm.
building and nurturing that system.
Yes, 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 and yes. So, and I had auditioned for a role on NCIS. So I had auditioned for a role for Nosferatu at the time. Got pinned. Was with Telsey, and then was released. I was so bummed. I really wanted that role. And then I auditioned again for NCIS New Orleans, and got pinned. And I remember my manager at the time called me up, and she said, "Oh, you got pinned." And I had just quit that day, like to my family.
You're right,
Yeah,
right.
I was like, okay, that's good. That's good. I'm gonna go to bed now. And I went to bed. And my manager called me up and she goes, Amor, you booked it. I said, what? I'm on REM stage. I'm like, what? It's midnight. And I'm thinking, wait, what? And she's telling me that I had booked a guest star top of show. I didn't know what she was talking about. It was my very first guest star credit and booking. And she starts explaining what that was all about. And I had no idea what she was saying. And it was very quiet. And she goes, hello, are you still there? And I said, what are you saying? And she explains to me what I just booked and that, and all, all the little details and what that entailed. And so fast forward, I find myself filming this.
And that, oh, by the way, that top of show, like that you were worried about your money and all that stuff. And, now it's all back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's not even talking about all the residuals from NCS New Orleans. I was a co-star in NCS New Orleans and I get tons of residuals. So I'm sure yours are even better.
It was wonderful. Let's put it that way. And it was definitely a gift. I thank God for that. And I couldn't believe it. Like when I finally was willing to just give it up, right? And my whole family just told me just to go to bed because I'm probably tired because I had just taken my daughter to a college visit. It was like a long drive both ways. And yeah, and it found me. And I got back on my path and my purpose and had the best time. It was like the best experience. So yeah, that's something I wanted to share.
I love that. Yeah, my time on NCS New Orleans was also really great. They were a great set, great people over there. I love this story, because I think probably the actors listening are like, yeah, tell me how to work in other markets, and it's just really, I mean, it's like it was this grind.
It's
It
a
was
grind.
this, cover letter to submissions, to workshops, to relationships, to, spending money that, maybe you have or don't have, missing out on this family get together, this,
Mm-hmm.
this essentially holiday,
Mm-hmm.
canceling on the family last second, changing your schedule and your plans last second, figuring out how to get to New York and stay in a hotel and try to do a subway system that you don't understand and don't know. And then also forgetting a headshot, like just so many
So many
things,
things.
having success, then not having success, not having success, not having
Mm-hmm.
success, not having success, not having, and being like, I'm freaking done with this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think is actually just like a beautiful, like exact story of like what this is. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, you want to work in another market, there's going to be heartache, there's going to be effort. You are going to have to invest. You're going to have to invest in relationships. You're going to have to invest your money. You're going to have to invest your time. You're going to have to sacrifice, like all of these things. It's not like you just do XYZ and it's super
Mm-hmm.
easy and fun. Like, no, it's hard. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I always want to frame things to be easy for people. I don't want to call it hard, but there's a lot to it. It's not just you just go get a manager and now it's done. And now
Mm-mm.
you get it. Like that is like one small step, one small element in the grander picture of
Mm-hmm.
how to make that work.
Yeah. Well, you know that saying where it says, "What is luck? Luck is when preparation meets opportunity."
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna unpack that because now, I was doing Atlanta, New York. My daughter moved to LA. Okay, people ask like, "Why are you in LA so much?" I'm like, "It's my daughter. I love my daughter. I want to go see her as much as I can." Are you working? Like, no. I mean, I'm there. I'm making myself available, um, but that's yet another market to tap into. And I was listening to your podcast with Jason, and he was talking about how, yeah, competition is fierce. Everywhere now, like everywhere. With the self taping, you're up against a lot of other people who are auditioning for the same role, and casting is able to see all these different actors now. And I would have to say that now that I'm tapping into that market, um, it's a different level of competition for sure. So I'm going to continue to prepare. I'm going to continue to work on my craft. And if the opportunity comes and I'm the right person to tell that story, then I'm all over that. But if I'm not, I need to be okay with that, right? And now that the market has changed so much, the system has changed, like Hollywood and just since the pandemic, since the strikes, so much has changed that we as actors have to stay on top of what's happening and where do we fit in and how do we navigate ourselves in this new landscape. So not only am I trying to understand the new landscape in the Southeast, I learned so much when I was in New York, the culture there and the mindset there. And now I'm learning what it's like to be in LA, being out there. Um, but at the end of the day, we're all storytellers, we're all actors and actresses, we're all artists, and we're all trying to create content, that stories we want to tell, whether we're creating it or we're a part of telling the story. Um, and like for me, we are a bi-coastal family. I'm just gonna say it. Now my daughter's there, my son and my husband are here. We have a home here in Atlanta, and now I have a place, I can visit because my daughter and her roommate are there. So, um, so anyway, I'm also not limiting myself in understanding the industry from the actor lens, but I'm also moving into the producer space. So I'm learning that, and I'm helping produce like 2 films right now. So I'm learning a lot more about the industry from that perspective. It's like I found myself back behind the camera now. So now I'm doing both, which is wonderful. And that's because I started off behind the camera and now in front, and then I went in front of the camera, and now I'm trying to do both by coastal.
Yeah, I think it's so
Um,
needed to start going into. Well, I think maybe like when you have. I mean, I get no, really. I take that back. Anybody, it's to start going into the producing side of things. I think that's going to be really important. I think there's a big future there for people that
mhm.
really make that pivot in a powerful way.
Yeah, and I was talking to somebody who's lived in LA for quite some time. He's an actor producer, and he was telling me that he, in that city, there's so many multi hyphenates, and it's so true. I meet so many artists when I'm there visiting, and the conversations that I have about the industry is is pretty cool. Everyone there is not everyone. Let's put it this way: they're very much so reading the trades, reading what's happening, who's the showrunner for this show, and all that. And I try to keep up. There's so much to learn about the different shows that are being greenlit, and you know, um, even here, like so much production happening here. And as a producer, now I look at incentives. Like every state has so many different incentives, and production is chasing those incentives. Like I'm doing a film right now where we're looking at the different incentives that are in Washington State and Texas and Georgia. Um, and there's another film that I'm helping produce that wants to be shot. They want it shot in California, and so I'm even looking at like Palmdale, and I met with some people in the film commission there.
Because in California, there's different incentives based on the county, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then as an actress, I think, oh, when they say local hire, what does that mean? As an actress, what is it? Just a local address? Is it a driver's license? Is it utility bills? What is it? Right? Or does it mean you can pay your way, um, fly yourself there, pay for your own lodging? So, but I'm trying to understand from the incentive point of view, um, that it's very important that you hire people who are residing in that area to qualify for the incentives. So like right now we're trying to cast people in Washington State.
Right.
We're trying to hire as many cast and crew from that state so that we can take advantage of the
Exactly.
local incentives. So it's very interesting understanding like the totality of the production and what's happening behind the scenes. And I also think that it's important, you know, me coming from the producing background to begin with, and then being in front of the camera, whenever I step on set, it truly is a beautiful collaboration among cast and crew to create this film or this television series. And I respect every single person in every department who's making it happen. And yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're talking about just like the local stuff. One of my new like keynote talks that I did at the summit. I don't think you're actually there for that one, but there's like this momentum switchboard, and it's a way to create momentum within your acting career that doesn't have to do with your acting. And one of them is traveling and working local and stuff. And so I had some like questions to ask yourself to help maybe move this lever in like what you're willing to do and not willing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the questions was like, if you were writing the checks, would you write the check that you're wanting? You know? And it's like, if somebody will do it for $1,000, let's just say, for basic numbers, and you want the $1,000 plus $1,000 for travel and a hotel, well, now this almost tripled. And if they're going to give it to you, why shouldn't they give it to the other 5 co-stars? So that's no longer just an extra $2,000. That just turned into $10,000, So it's like, are you willing to write that check? Or like all of a sudden, is it starting to make sense, And it's easy to be like, well, Disney's got the money. It's like, sure they do, but they are making many projects at once. So why are they going to bend the rules for this project but not the other project? So it's not one role, it all of a sudden becomes 70 roles. So like you really try to look at it. And so the producing side that you're talking about, I think, is very, very helpful. And I told everyone that I had produced a movie last year. I'm like, and we did it non-union, and I'm like, you better believe I was like, yeah, we're paying $100. Someone's going to do it for $100 because I'm actually paying it. I'm like, I don't have a crazy amount of money to be able to pay. This is expensive. And we have our budget, and, we're doing it as cheap as possible so we can get the thing going and get it moving, as opposed to, I think people forget that it's like so much work just to go get the money. So much work just to go get the money. And then, how hard it is to make it back. So you don't want to risk as much. So anyway, we can go back and forth about the money thing all day. But I'm glad that you brought that up. Well, let's get to our spotlight sign off, Amor, which is 5 questions to end strong.
Okay.
So question 1 is, what is something you're super grateful for today?
My family and my faith.
I love it. Yes. The families got brought up a lot. They got lots of shout outs. Good job, family. Question 2 is, what is a television show, film, or book that changed the trajectory of your life?
Oh no. Oh my goodness. Changed the trajectory of my life. Wait, film, a show. Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, I'm gonna have to go back to Star Wars.
Okay.
Yeah,
Star Wars.
Star
I
Wars.
wouldn't have guessed that. Why Star Wars?
Yeah. I was in middle school. I remember Empire Strikes. Oh my God, I'm totally dating myself. But I remember I walked to the movie theaters to watch it by myself. I wanted to watch it so badly, and I was just thinking, why would I do that? And I think it had something to do with just, it was like it teleported me to a different place. It was just wonderful, like everything about it. Yeah, the Star Wars series for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. I love that. What is something in your daily routine that you really love and cherish?
My daily routine. Oh, my quiet time.
Your
In the
quiet
morning.
time?
I have
That's in
quiet
the
time. Yeah, in the morning. I'm trying to be really good about just taking time to just, I do my morning pages.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have my devotion, and just have that time to be present, to listen. Mark Fincannon actually talked about this in his talk. Just to sit and be still and listen. And I don't know if you've done the artist way, but I do that. I try to do morning pages consistently. I don't get to do it every day, but I try to. And when I'm quiet and still, I do my devotion, I pray, and then I'll write in my journal. I've always journaled, and sometimes it comes out as just like spontaneous writing, free writing. Sometimes it turns into this poem, whatever, or just lists, whatever it is, whatever's in my head, whatever I'm worrying about or what I'm dreaming about, it's there and I see it. And it's almost like a love letter to myself. Like, this is who you are. This is what you're thinking about. And it becomes tangible. And having, and just reminding myself of, like just counting my blessings. Because sometimes I have to be intentional about like being content and feeling blessed with what I already have.
Absolutely.
And being a good steward of that.
Yeah. I love that. What is something you're currently trying to improve in your life right now?
My health and well-being. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Last year was tough for me, and self-care, because I want to be healthy and live long and have a optimal health and well-being, not just for myself, but for my kids, my husband, my family, my friends, and just have this quality of life where I can just enjoy it and be present.
Candace is doing like really solid health and fitness, like health optimization coaching. You should text Jean, because Jean, yeah, she's doing it, and she's like, it's absolutely unbelievable. Like, I feel like a different woman.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, you should be like, hey, I heard you're doing the thing with Candace. How, like, tell me about it, and get Jean's thoughts on it. Because it might be something, for you or somebody listening. But I mean, Candace, it just like loves that stuff so much. She's like, this is the best thing ever because I get to be a doctor without actually being a doctor. Like, because they take your blood work, they do like everything. So anyway, I think that's fantastic, and I think we're like in a generation now, which is really great, that like also supports that. Like, being super healthy and focused on that is like cool. It's not like lame,
No, yeah.
So
I want to age gracefully too.
yes, you are. You are.
Thanks, Jess. Working hard.
Well, last question. I think we've hit a bunch of different things. So maybe it's something we already talked about, or maybe it's something that maybe we missed. But if you wanted the listeners to get one thing for sure, a takeaway from this episode, what would you want them to take away?
Take care of yourself, your health, your well-being. You want to enjoy the journey. Don't forget, if you're hustling, and you forget why you're doing it. Know your why and enjoy life.
I love it.
Yeah.
Amor, I love you and your energy and your sweetness, and you're so fantastic. And
Love you too.
I love that we've known each other for so long, and that you're part of the team now within the mentor. We didn't even get to talk about that.
Yes.
Shoot. But
we can talk about it. You can talk about it. Go ahead.
I feel like, based on time, I try to keep these episodes tighter,
Yeah.
But
Can I say one thing about it, though?
Okay, yeah, all right, do it.
I was hesitant at first, but I just wanted to say thank you for asking me to be a mentor, because it's been a blessing to me.
It's such a blessing, isn't it?
It really is.
No, it
I
is a
love
blessing to be able to help and give back and serve the community. And I think
I
in
love
that
my mentees.
mentorship, yes, and like in like that one-on-one, because you begin to realize, it starts off one way, and like, let's help these actors do I'm like, we don't have time now. I'll talk, right? But we help these actors, and like, what I think starts off as like this, we're just gonna help them, like, help their actor dream. But I think it becomes so much deeper and closer and more connected than that, and it expands in different ways that you don't expect. That I think is just really special.
and being alongside my mentees, when I'm coaching them and trying to steer them in the right in a direction that I think would be helpful. And then when they have a win,
Yes,
I get to celebrate the wins.
I know.
I just recently experienced that. I'm just like,
The wins are the best.
yes, love it.
I tell people this, I tell them, but I'm like, I don't know if they really believe me that like we at this point in our careers, we've had so many wins that like their wins are actually more exciting.
It is.
It is. It's interesting. It's
Thank
so
you.
nice. I know. I'm like, guys, we're stealing your wins. We're
Oh,
celebrating
gosh.
it and we're excited about it.
It's
So
so awesome.
it is great. It is great. Well, Amor, thank you so much. And just you as a mentor and you just wanting to continue to learn and level up, like for yourself and for the mentees, I think it's just such an incredible, incredible attribute. And so I thank you for it.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you so much for watching Get Scene Unscripted again. I'm Jesse Malinowski. I appreciate you so much for being here, spending some time with us. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. And you can leave us a review and comment along the way. And this is the beautiful Amor Owens. Amor, thanks so much again.
You're welcome. Thank you.